I can't believe it, the lesson where no one wins. I discovered that my wife had an affair while I was teaching overseas. I let my principal know that I wouldn't be returning for the school year and found a dream job in Costa Rica for next school year. My wife could hardly object and things were going fine. I stopped obsessing about her affair, but then boom. She gets pregnant. First, she says, if I go then she wants a divorce, and I gladly agreed. I told her she could have all the assets. I'm a teacher so it's not much but she can have it, and that I would send her all my money and live on bologna sandwiches. I really thought we had it worked out. Then, out of the blue she says that if I go, she will get an abortion, so I told her that I wouldn't go, but I'm miserable, and the thought of not going is like a trigger or something, and I'm starting to think about her affair again. I'm starting to feel really depressed. I'm starting to eat too much and I'm not sure what to do. I really want to leave. What should I do? My mom keeps saying do the right thing, but the thought of staying here is just overwhelming, and the fact is, I don't even have a job lined up, plus after the baby comes, she'll take 3 months maternity leave. Potentially that means 3 months with no income. As far as paternity, I told her immediately that after the kid was born, I'd be getting a paternity test, and she didn't even blink. I can't imagine she'd be so stupid as to think that I wouldn't have a paternity test done. I'm confident it's mine. Seems to be unanimous consent that I should. Seems only my mom doesn't agree. Her affair partner is a total piece of crap, and it turns out a serial cheater. I harassed the man so much, I had a detective show up at my door threatening me with arrest. Once I found out who he was, I let his employer know and I went to his work to call him out. I told his wife, his Facebook friends, his church, the school his kids went to, just on and on. This was the one time in my life that I felt homicidal. I was in a really bad place. Once I made the decision to go back overseas, and then when I got the job offer in Costa Rica, things started to get better for me, in my head that is. I still think about the guy, but hardly at all and without the same homicidal intensity. I started treating my wife much better. I stopped punishing her. But now, with the possibility that I might be stuck here, it's all starting again. The mind movies, the anger, it's like a trigger. If I decide to stay, I'll probably start stalking this guy again and at some point, start punishing my wife. If the kids were her priority, she would agree to go with me to Costa Rica. The bottom line is, there is a direct line from her cheating to me leaving. She is more than welcome to come, but her American dream is more important than an intact family. She is nothing but a cheating wife after all, and from what I can tell, a fresh start in Costa Rica would be a real blessing. The issue is the threat of an abortion. She is definitely pregnant. We have already been to the doctor and I saw the baby move and heard its heartbeat. She is 8 weeks pregnant, so by my calculations, I'd need to wait another 20 weeks before an abortion is just not possible. If it is my baby, and especially if it's a son, that would be just great. I would love that, but it wouldn't stop me from going to Costa Rica. We agreed to this life before we got married and she bailed out on it. There are lots of teaching couples with kids, so it isn't unheard of. In fact, those kids seem like they have a world of advantage and often are fluent in a second and even third language. Maybe she should man up and go to Costa Rica with me. Just think of the experience our daughters would have. FYI, I didn't see it coming. Even after she bailed, I thought we were partners. I sent her all my wages and I lived a frugal life. It turns out, while she was busy having fun with guys, I was teaching in Vietnam. Do you have any idea how easy it would have been for me to find a really young girlfriend and hide that from her? But guess what? It never entered my mind. I've thought on this a whole lot since D-Day, and I fully understand that just because a person doesn't cheat, that doesn't make them an angel. I get that. I'm no angel, I just never thought to cheat. On the other hand, I've also concluded that there are people, and I suspect you are one of them, that just assume everyone cheats given the opportunity. It's also not true. Some people, for whatever reason, just don't cheat, and some people, for whatever reason, do cheat. I read somewhere that it is in the genes. People who cheat tend to be risk takers more so than people who don't. Whatever, why should I have seen that coming? If I was a Marine and in Afghanistan while she was cheating, I bet you wouldn't say that. What I did, place filled out D papers in front of her and ask your prepared questions. How this started, who crossed the line first, was protection used, no contact letter, etc. She answered these questions, but I honestly don't believe a word she says. I certainly don't buy her timeline. It's just way too tight, but she's sticking with it. I even let her know how angry I was that some strange man had slept in my bed. Why not just get a hotel room? That's incredibly disrespectful, she said, and with a straight face, we never had slept in the bed. We only had slept together in the living room. Every step of the way, she has only admitted to exactly what I could prove and not anything more. What are the odds of that? As far as protection, they didn't use it. That was clear from the text that I found. She told this guy in a text she thought she might be pregnant and what he thought about having another kid, and he said, "Honestly, I don't want any kids, but I guess that's the risk you take when you go bareback." The thing is, after our second child, refused to bond unless I used protection, but for this guy, was no problem. After D-Day I made some demands regarding bonding, and one was, I refused to use a protection. Now she's pregnant and I'm off to Costa Rica in August. That baby in her belly is like a chicken coming home to roost. Finding a teaching job in America is easy, especially if you teach math and physics. Dealing with the type of student that shows up in the typical American classroom is a nightmare. Anyway, if I were to stay, and I'm not, I sure as hell wouldn't work. I'd sit my ass on the couch and be a stay-at-home dad and let her work, clean, cook, everything. Either way, her life gets harder and my life gets easier. I am noticing one thing: women tend to you should stay and men tend to you should go, but on the whole, the vote seems to be stay for the kids, which I find mind-boggling. I made it clear that she is welcome to come. Did I make that clear? My comment: divorce immediately, go to Costa Rica. Good Lord, she screws another man in your home and in your bed, and does not bother to use protection and gets pregnant, but forces you to wear protection. She did not care that she put your health at risk for STD. If the roles were reversed, I doubt that she would be so passive and accepting as you have been. She clearly has no respect for you whatsoever. If you do not respect yourself, then who will? OP responds, it's hard on any BS in America because of the no-fault divorce laws. I was amazed that in a divorce, the judge wouldn't even hear about the affair. In fact, in Indiana, if I was to name her AP in court, I would be charged with a misdemeanor and have to pay a $500 fine. Anyway, I asked her to come with me and we could try a real R in Costa Rica, but she said no way. She just got her dream job as a nurse in a VA hospital. Do you get that? She has an affair, and at the end of the day, you are advising me to give up my dream job so she can have her dream job, and all for the sake of the kids. That logic just isn't adding up for me. My wife is welcome to join me but has decided not to, so I'm not abandoning anyone. She wants what she wants and I want what I want, but there is a difference. What she wants depends on me staying with her here in Indiana. What I want only depends on me. Did you know that there is a higher incidence of depression among Hoosiers than compared to a national average? Somehow that doesn't really surprise. Costa Rica, on the other hand, I bet it must be so sweet there. You know what I'm hoping? I go to Costa Rica and her life becomes so unbearably hard that she just gives up and joins me. There is a possible happy ending to this, but me sacrificing myself for the sake of the kids and ending up bitter and resentful because that's what would happen. No good would come of that. In no way, shape or form am I abandoning them. She knows I'm leaving and I'm going to provide support. Second of all, if I were abandoning them, it would be called constructive abandonment because she gave me cause to just up and leave. Abandonment isn't the worst thing I've been called. Not a man seems to be a favorite. Sperm donor is another. I guess that means a Marine being sent to Iraq or Afghanistan is likewise not a man or just a sperm donor for putting his country before his wife and kids. I won't be winning any Father of the Year award anytime soon, but that's about as far as I'd go in terms of criticizing my decision to leave. Especially since my wife and kids are more than welcome to leave with me. But most of these criticisms are over the top and show a lack of balance or some kind of Christian-based agenda. I went through this 25 years ago with my first wife. Same deal exactly, except there was no cheating. We met in Taiwan, traveled together for a few years, and she got pregnant with my first son. Went back to Taiwan and she had my second son, took her to the States for what was to be just 2 years, and she refused to leave. We had a really amicable divorce and I went to Thailand. My sons are 21 and 19, both in university, doing just fine, and we have a solid relationship. We spent summers together and Christmases all through high school. When I found out about my wife's affair, I went and stayed with my second son. Me and my sons are tight and they know they are loved. I pay for my second son's apartment and my ex-wife pays for my first son's apartment. I'm very much in my son's lives. Small update. So I told my wife I've decided after all to go to Costa Rica, and she was furious. She didn't mention abortion but immediately launched into a discussion about divorce. I said I really needed to get paternity tests done on the new baby and our second daughter. She scoffed at that but just wanted to make sure I'd be paying for it. Then we got to distribution of assets. Her idea was that since there are 5 of us, I should get 20% and she the rest. I said no way, 50-50, and that's how it ended. I've always had a problem with the timeline of her affair. It just sounds like a load of crap, and recently I've been wondering if every time I was overseas, she's been having affairs, so I said, if you take and pass a polygraph to confirm your timeline and to confirm this has been your only affair, I'll agree to your agreement. She freaked at that and said no way and that she wouldn't be humiliated by taking a polygraph. She got angry and shut that idea down with end of discussion. She refuses to take a polygraph. It's been tense here since I let her know I'm going to Costa Rica. She now sleeps in my daughter's room, so it's going to be a long 3 months. I should have waited another month at least before telling her. I miss the physical contact. She has a perfect 4 months pregnant belly. I didn't help things any this morning before she left for work. I got up early just to remind her that I would be paternity testing all our children, and she just said, go ahead. Her refusing to take the poly. It definitely confirms for me that her timeline is bullcrap, but I always knew it was. As far as my offer, it was genuine, but bear in mind, all our assets are tied up in our house and that's about it. We aren't talking about a fortune. It's beside the point though, because she just flat out refuses to be polygraphed. She also hasn't mentioned divorce anymore. My guess is that talking about divorce leads to a discussion on distribution of assets, which leads back to my polygraph offer. Anyway, not a happy household at the moment. She mentioned divorce. I don't know if I want a divorce or not. I think I'd rather wait and see how things play out, at least until January. That would give me a full semester working in CR, and by then I'll know if it's really the paradise I hear it is and if I'm a good fit for that school. It wouldn't be the first time I went to a good school in a great place only to find it wasn't really for me. I'd rather wait on divorce, and since I mentioned the poly, she hasn't brought it up again. But you are correct on all counts. Indiana is a no-fault state. The polygraph is irrelevant, and the paternity test is really what matters. I just would love to get a few questions answered. For people who think I take off on my family for school, it's not that simple. We met and married in China, and she knew the deal. Initially, she was going to be a Chinese teacher, and we would be a teaching couple. In the world of international teaching, teaching couples get preference because the school doesn't need to duplicate certain benefits, like housing. She changed her mind and out of the blue decides that she wants to be a nurse. Well, good for her, but I'm not giving up a career because she couldn't take traveling anymore. Maybe she should have stayed single. Also, it's a 2-year contract. I'm just saying, I want to give it a semester before I start thinking about divorce. My evidence is text messages between the piece of crap and my wife. I guess he could deny it is him, but he hasn't bothered. I've been blazing this guy for 10 months now, and only once had law enforcement get on me, and that was because I kept calling the restaurant he works and telling whoever answered that they were working with an offender. The cop was only concerned that I was interfering with the business and didn't seem to give a crap about the piece of crap. I then called restaurants in the downtown Indy area and told them all the piece of crap was an offender and to never hire him. I contacted well over 100 restaurants and I never got any blowback from that. Of course, I contacted his wife, mom, brother and cousins. Again, never heard anything except from the wife, who was a total doormat. That's how I found out he was serial cheater. The other man lives in Carmel, so I contacted schools and churches in Carmel exposing him as an offender and serial cheater, and again nothing happened. Just last week I sent his mom an email asking her what she or her husband did to turn her son into a felon offender. I've been watching ID Discovery a lot lately, and it's amazing just how frequently infidelity leads to violence. What's really disturbing to me is how often the BS is put in danger by the WS affair. Anyway, I just watched the story of Cora Caro. She found out her piece of crap husband was having an affair, and to get back at him, she killed 3 of her 4 children. So, me leaving a pregnant wife and 2 kids because of my wife's affair is not so bad, especially since I'll be providing support. It doesn't make me a bad guy at all. Whereas I, a life giver, get my wife pregnant and now I'm going to Costa Rica in less than 3 months. I bring a life in and I get to live in a paradise. I guess it's all how you look at things. I'll be financially supporting her, and it's not like I'm leaving her in a jungle. It's just boring old Indiana. She's due November 1st and my mom said she'll come the last week of October, and I get 1 month winter break for the month of December, so I think she should be fine for delivery. And the weeks after. I do worry, to be honest, but to maintain my resolve, all need to do is read through the texts I discovered, and I'm immediately determined to follow through with this plan. One other thing to keep in mind. She's more than welcome to join me in Costa Rica. I'm a fool. Basically, I have been played for a green card twice, but I did get 5 kids out of it. Now I know I'll get crap for this, but in my Italian-American cultural orientation, that is seen a real blessing. Having kids has inherent value. They give you bragging rights. My genes are securely locked into the next generation, even if I only see them over summers and the long Christmas break, Skype a few times a week, exchange emails. By the way, my ex-wife and I get along. Whenever I go to Arkansas, I always stop by and we have dinner. She's okay with how things turned out and told my son straight up that she respected me. She wasn't a W though, but I'm pretty sure she played me for a green card. Good for her. And FYI, I see my kids at least once a year, and airfare be damned because I'm all about maintaining relationships with my kids. I just got this email from my new posting in Costa Rica. Man, I can't wait to go. I'm ready to roll. It's an excellent school, which is clear from how organized they are for new teachers. They have an actual buddy system. I've arrived at jobs where they forgot to meet me at the airport. Anyway, it's been almost 11 months since D-Day, and thank God, it's almost over. It's been 10 months since D-Day, and now that I got my wife pregnant, I want to do the 180. I actually started doing it to her on Sunday, and she basically seems to care less. I'm wondering how most WW react to the 180. I was hoping she would at least ask me what's wrong, but she's just ignoring me right back. I don't want to stop doing it because a month after D-Day, I left and went to Arkansas to stay with my son, but after 3 weeks, I missed her so much that I went back. We had a fight a few weeks ago and she threw that in my face. She said I came crawling back and it really pissed me off. Why am I all of a sudden doing a 180? Well, I was able to get into her Facebook account and I saw that she had done a FB search on her affair partner, and I didn't say anything because I want to continue to monitor her account, but it was really shocking to see that. Days later, well, I got my reaction. Today was the 16th week checkup on the baby and there was an ultrasound to be done. Since I work from home, I drop the girls off at school, take my wife to work and come home. This morning she says like usual, Steve, meaning let's go. Today she took the morning off for the doctor's appointment, so I said, no need for me to go. You drop the girls off, go to the appointment and come back and I'll take you to work. I heard the slightest whine. So, when she comes back, she says real meekly, can you take me to work now? So, in silence I just get up and walk out the door and she follow. About 10 minutes into ride, I start to hear sniffles and then a little quiet weeping and then crying, and then she composed herself. Now I feel bad. Maybe I should cut her some slack. She is pregnant and the kid is probably mine. I feel bad about being cold. I really do, but there is a direct line from her affair and especially her decision to have unprotected affair to her scheduled D&C tomorrow. I can't help but see this as a consequence. After our second daughter was born, we always used protection. It was only after she decided to have an affair and her thing with her AP that I insisted on also having unprotected bonding. If that makes me cold and heartless, well, I'm not the one having a D&C procedure. Which actually sounds like an unpleasant procedure. Filling in some details if you missed what is happening. I am a teacher and I have spent most of my career teaching overseas. I met my current wife in China in 2006. She understood that I was an international school teacher, was delighted to join me in my travels, and we spent the first 5 years of our marriage in different countries. After China, I took her to Syria, Afghanistan, where our first daughter was born, Hong Kong, where our second daughter was born, and Portugal. After Portugal, she said that she had enough of travel and either I take her to America or she would return to China. I took her to Arkansas because I have 2 sons from a previous marriage that live there. We bought a house and I went back overseas for another year to teach in Egypt. While in Egypt, I was offered a 2-year contract at the International School of Indiana. This would have been for the 2012, 2013 and 2013-2014 school years. I was happy about that, being able to spend a few years with my family. Also, my older son from my previous marriage would be able to join us for his junior and senior years, so I was really happy. My wife was happy as well, so we rented out our house in Arkansas and set off to Indiana. Yes, there were stresses on our marriage and it wasn't a strong marriage. There were problems and we argued quite a bit. After one particular argument, in October of 2012, I was working at school and an order of protection was served by the Marion County Sheriff's Department on a Friday at 3:30 p.m. in view of faculty, administration, students and parents. The order was issued in an hearing. There was no trial. No witnesses were called and, in fact, I didn't even know a hearing was taking place. The order of protection was based solely on the testimony of my wife that she was in fear for the safety of herself and my 2 daughters. I was dispossessed and all I had was my credit card and $20 cash. It was a real nightmare. To make matters worse, and for no reason whatsoever, my 17-year-old son was also thrown out of the house. We spent 3 nights in a cheap hotel and wound up renting 2 rooms in a house. My son wasn't even allowed to get his textbooks, which put him behind in a few AP courses. I lived in the basement of this house. Throwing my son out was always a question in my mind. It just didn't make sense. My ex-wife telephoned my current and begged her not to throw out my son and offered to pay the rent. My mother also called my current wife and likewise begged that she does not throw her grandson out and also offered financial assistance. My current wife needed the money because she wasn't working at the time and I certainly wasn't going to give her a dime, and she could have probably used help with 2 little girls, so it didn't make sense that she had the Marion County Sheriff Department remove my son as well. Anyway, fast forward about 4 months to February 2013. My wife suddenly is no longer afraid of me, vacates the protective order and we reconcile. Honestly, I was just glad to get out of a basement and back into my bed. I was still confused by the whole ordeal because I never threatened or laid a hand on my wife. It was just one of our many fights and nothing out of the ordinary. I was happy to get back together with her. However, damage was done. First of all, the International School of Indiana canceled my contract for the 2013-2014 school year. Of course, they said that it had nothing to do with the restraining order being served at the school, but I disagree. My evaluations were all excellent, and when I left, I received an excellent reference from the high school principal. Second of all, my ex-wife insisted that my son return to Arkansas after the 2012-2013 school year. She was furious about what happened. For my part, I went back overseas. First, I went to China for the 2013-2014 school year. Then I went to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands for the 2014-2015 school year. While I was in St. Tom's, in November of 2014, my wife asked me to come home to Indiana because she needed help with our daughters. She was finishing a nursing degree and was in the clinical portion of the program and needed my help. At the end of the fall semester, 2014, I returned to Indiana and got an online teaching job with a K-12 school, which is where I am currently teaching. Everything was going fine until about 10 months ago when I discovered some very graphic texts that detailed an affair between my wife and a man by the name of Donald Duck. Here is the point. The dates of the texts indicate that the start and end of their affair correspond to the date that the order of protection was issued and then vacated. So even though the affair happened 3 years ago, my D-Day is about 10 months ago. I have no evidence that my wife has been in touch with D-Duck except that I found that she searched his name on FB about a week ago. I want to emphasize again that the text messages show that almost immediately after this order of protection was issued, my wife and Dee began a physical affair in my house, in my bed, and with my 3-year-old and 5-year-old daughters in the bedroom next door. The texts also show that almost immediately after the affair ended, my wife had the order of protection against me vacated. You know, in cases of adultery there is a saying, there's no such thing as a coincidence. If my wife is to be believed, these texts show 2 coincidences because she says she didn't even meet this guy until after the TRO was issued. I say bull crap. The order of protection was not taken out because she was in any kind of fear for her life or the lives of my daughters, but rather because she wanted to enjoy a physical relationship with DD, and therefore wanted both me and my son out of the apartment. She continues to insist it was 2 big coincidences. In fact, she says we were separated. In her wayward mind, having me removed with a protective order constitutes a separation. Like I said in my first thread, no remorse on her part, no regrets, no apology even to my son. A heartless shrew. It does get better. It turns out that Donald Duck is a convicted offender. The irony here is that on the pretense of protecting herself and my daughters, my wife let an offender in the house and allowed that offender to have contact with my girls. In all fairness to my wife, she didn't know this about her AP, and in fact, she didn't even know he was married. At some point, Donald Duck's wife found out about the affair, contacted my wife and said that's my husband and we have 4 kids together. At that point, my wife immediately ended the affair and shortly thereafter vacated the order of protection. Now to the unprotected bonding. After my D-Day, about 10 months ago, I experienced hysterical bonding. Hysterical bonding is a very real thing. In the months right after D-Day, we were having it 2 and 3 times per day, and we were having unprotected bonding. Why would I insist on unprotected time? Well, in the texts I found, what I realized was that my wife and her AP were having unprotected time. After our second daughter was born, I could not touch my wife unless I had a protection on. Actually, they were enjoying a physical relationship that I never got to enjoy, and it was more than just unprotected bonding, but that's a whole other issue and I already mentioned it in other updates. Anyway, and I know it was very foolish of me and I regret it, but I insisted on not using protection, and that's probably how she got pregnant, but at the end of the day she is terrible, so really knows. I pointed arbitrarily at 99% chance it was my baby. At some point after D-Day, but before she got pregnant, I informed my current head of school I would not be returning for the 2016-2017 school year and got a job in Costa Rica, and I leave in August, a month later. So, my wife cheated on me before and I could be hyper-vigilant, but I have to ask opinions on this. We just moved into a new house and some neighbors threw a welcome to the neighborhood party for us. At the party, there was one guy whose wife was disabled and looked really old and not very attractive. She has health issues. The husband was nice enough. Today, I checked her FB account and he sent her a friend request, but not to me. She accepted the request. I told my wife I thought it was strange he sent her a friend request but not me. She just rolled her eyes and said she was so tired of it. I just don't like it. I monitor her accounts because she cheated and I guess it was a deal breaker. Of course, she could have other accounts I don't know about. A burner phone, who knows? I also randomly put a VAR in her car and so far, nothing, but maybe she found the VAR and is just being careful. Again, who knows? I know I don't trust her. For all her excellent qualities, she'll always be a cheating wife in my book. It's her own damn fault I don't trust her. My comment: this is one of the rare stories where I don't like both OP. I get it, the wife cheated, but OP doesn't feel like a good father. A good father isn't just about the physical support, but also the emotional support, but he isn't willing to give up his traveling lifestyle. And I think this is not a good marriage for both parties. Let me rest and I will provide more stories for tomorrow.